Let's go. Saturday night live with Chatterbox Reds. Welcome in, everybody. Craig Sandlin joined by Mike Hart. Mike, start of the weekend. How's it going for you, buddy?
It's going all right. It was negative 12 degrees last night, so I'm hoping that it starts to warm up a little bit more. But
Oh my God.
it's going to be weird. No football this week. It just means we're ready. We're ready for pitchers and catchers. I'm just ready for baseball season. I'm ready for anything besides negative 12 degrees.
Well, we're happy to fill the void for those of you that watched the Royal Rumble earlier today. Maybe you're watching UFC tonight. Maybe you watched Kentucky beat Arkansas. Miami improved to 23-0. We won't mention
Pro Bowl.
the Bearcat. We won't mention the. Oh, right. Did the Pro Bowl happen today?
I don't think it has happened yet. All I know is that our pride, Joe Flacco, is going to be representing the Bengals there. That's all that matters.
There you go. Yeah, big weekend. So appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate everybody, most importantly, sending in your hot takes. We got lots of people across all the different platforms giving us their hot takes, and definitely appreciate that. But before we get into it, mention just a couple news pieces that we want to talk about, Mike, and then we'll get into the hot takes. But before we do, as always, we want to give a shout out to Omaha Steaks. I hit officially 125 pounds lost this weekend, Mike.
Wow, man. So, congrats, dude. That's awesome.
That's exciting, and did it by eating high protein and low carb. And of course, if you are interested in getting a strong start to your year, the Start Strong sale event is going on now with Omaha Steaks. Personally, Mike, the protein essentials packages are great for me. They've got everything to make dinner easy and delicious. Things like the Taco Night Done Right lead protein bundle, where they have salmon and chicken breasts and pork chops. Of course, for those of you that maybe are eating the carbs, they've got Pasta Night Essentials with meatballs and shrimp and ground beef and all kinds of stuff like that. And of course, the Power Protein Bowl Pack is available as well. It's a new year and a good time to make your life easier by getting premium meats and other great food items delivered right to your door with Omaha Steaks. Let Omaha Steaks deliver high quality proteins right to your door. Visit omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with promo code chatter at checkout. That's OMAHA steaks.com. Promo code chatter. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, Mike, couple news pieces coming out today that we want to make sure we mention before we get into these hot takes. Let's start with Austin Hays, the 2025 Cincinnati Red, signing with the Chicago White Sox today.
Yeah, interesting. He basically signed for almost an identical deal as he did last year. I think $5 million with a $1 million buyout. So interesting. He said he was weighing a couple options. We don't know where the Reds landed with it, but I don't lose too much sleep on this one. I think Hays was good in spots, especially against left-handed pitching. But I have a feeling that if he were to have been a Red, he would have played way too much against right-handed pitching because that's what Tito would have done. So do I think he could have helped this Reds team? Yeah. Is it the end of the world? I don't, it doesn't feel like it, at least to me.
And then another former Red, Joey Votto, officially joining NBC's Sunday Night Baseball coverage. I'm excited for that. We talked about potentially putting together, maybe we'll still do it, I don't know, putting together a little montage of our favorite Joey Votto media moments. Do you have one off the top of your head that you like the best from Joey Votto?
This one isn't necessarily, I guess maybe it's a media
moment. It
doesn't
have to be a media moment, I guess.
It's when he would troll the fans at first base at opposing teams and pretend to throw the ball up in the stands and be like, I think he did it to the Philadelphia fans, which is even better in my mind because I don't have much love lost for fans of Philadelphia teams.
Yeah, of course, you got to love the stomping on the paper airplane and everything else as well. I'm personally a big fan of his Mount T uniform he broke out for a couple interviews as well. So congratulations to Joey Votto. Look forward to the day where his number is retired by the Cincinnati Reds and he's inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, which will undoubtedly happen sooner than later. Final piece of news that I wanted to touch on, Mike, before we get into the rest of the show is a guy that I felt like was a Cincinnati Red signing made in heaven. certainly for Tito and Chris Valleca, but I'll call him my guy. I don't know. Do we call him my guy? Luis Arraez just recently announced, or I guess if we want to say it's announced, I don't know, but just reported he'll be signing a 1-year, $12 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Sounds like big part of his decision making was he wanted to play second base, and that was something that even if the Reds were interested in Arraez, was never going to be part of the plan for him.
Yeah, somebody who's, I mean, if you look at his defensive numbers, aren't great there. And while the Reds would have been able to use his bat, we have somebody at second base that's very good defensively. So 13 million seems steep as well. Maybe, I don't know. He has won 3 batting titles, but you know, if they're not going to be in on Hayes for 5 million, I don't see how they're going to be in on Arraez for, you know, over twice that. So, yeah, well, I don't know. We may get into this with some of these hot takes, but the spending spigot seems to be turned off now, and I'm not sure if we're going to be, as much as people are clamoring for it, I'm not sure if any impact bat is coming via free agency for this team for the rest of the offseason, just because of, you know, name your excuse, you know, the TV deals, you know, mutual interest, all that kind of stuff. But I think that not having clarity on, you know, how much actual money is going to be coming in because of the potential influx of who's going to be broadcasting the Reds rights, I think all of that is playing into them just being willing to kind of sit on their hands and promote from within, basically.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mike, let's get into the bold predictions. That's what we're here for tonight. Let's break it all down, go through some of them. I know we have a bunch of them starred and set off to the side, but if you are in the chat, drop your hot takes in there and we'll see if we can get to those as well. Mike, before we get into some of the other ones, give me one that stood out to you as maybe the hottest take or your favorite take.
Oh, okay. I got one. This one's my favorite take for a couple reasons, because it's got like everything that goes into, it's got specifics, which is what I like. I like not people's like, oh, Elly's going to be an all-star. It's like, no, give me specifics. And it, you know, it gets into it, but then it maintains Reds fandom. You can tell that there's a, you know, wounded Reds fan behind him. And it is from Instagram. I believe it's Zach Engajurin. It's this one. It says Tyler Callahan comes back from a broken arm injury in Atlanta to become a 4-hole hitter, leading the Reds to the playoffs after putting up Nick Kurtz type numbers and being a finalist for the Gold Glove, where he eventually his luck runs out and the playoffs and the Reds lose to the Mets in the divisional round. So it's just like, we're dreaming. This is the most outlandish thing, but I can't make it too crazy. There's no way the Reds are making the World Series. There's a wounded Reds fan in there. So that one took the cake. I giggled about that one for a while. Boy, would I love Tyler Callahan to be the next Nick Kurtz, but he couldn't go all the way there.
I love the fact that we're calling Tyler Callahan the big dumper numbers, the next Nick Kurtz. The dude never put in double-digit home run numbers in the minor leagues, and we're gonna expect him to come up and put up 60 home runs in his first full season. I think that was great too. Loved that one. I think there were some interesting ones. Some that maybe were a little crazier than others, and maybe some that are really not that bold at all, right? And I think depending on who you talk to might be definitive of how bold you think these are. One that for instance, that I think came in from Twitter, Capper Juice. The Reds have a bottom 5 offense in the league. I don't think that's that far stretched, but forcing us to move Hunter Greene at the deadline for more prospects who will never pan out again. Let me tell you, man, first of all, I don't know about the offense. We continue to not make a lot of moves, and the offense may, in fact, be one of the bottom offenses. But Hunter Greene's not the piece that the Reds are going to move at the trade deadline, and it certainly wouldn't be for prospects if that was the case. Now, I personally believe that the Reds are going to move a starting pitcher at the deadline, Mike, and not to get ahead and share my bold takes, but they will move a pitcher at the deadline. Burns and Louder are going to show enough to make them believe in them in the rotation, which will result in either Singer or Lodolo being dealt at the deadline, which I don't think is really that big of a surprise to people. But I think one of those two will be dealt at the deadline. It won't be Hunter Greene.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you can see the wounded Reds fan with Capper juice as well. But yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be something in there that has that flair to it. But I would imagine too that I doubt they're going to be full sellers at the deadline. Just because we saw, I mean, there was an argument this past year that maybe, hey, they should sell when they were still kind of close and into it. And it's like, I kind of expect them to be in the same spot. So I think that they're probably just going to be trading that from a position of strength. And what to me, what that means is you're getting major league talent back. So, if they do trade Lodolo, it's to hopefully, bring in an offensive bat or something like that. So, we'll see. I hope that we're in a spot where we can, maybe trade from a position of strength to add to a position of need. But I think people dog on Nick Krall, but I mean, if you think about it, last year, while it wasn't the sexy thing we want, Andujar, Littell, and Brian Hayes wasn't that bad. I don't think there's any like real busts in that those three things without really having to give up too much.
Look, we've talked about the trade deadline a lot on this show. We really have, and rightfully so, because it was so intriguing, and I've said this 100 times, but when you look at the entirety of the MLB trade deadline, the Reds really did next to nothing. But if you look at it in the Reds vacuum, those three moves were good moves. They weren't enough of a needle mover to make you think that they were going to be able to compete with a team like the Mets or the Padres, who went out and made significant moves. Now the Mets obviously fell off and it didn't work out, but the Reds, we'll see what they do at this deadline. We got a prediction in the chat that I want to get into because it kind of falls in line with some predictions that I think we saw pretty commonly, and it comes in from CJ Allen 8986. He says Sal Stewart hits 29 home runs with 90 RBIs, and that was in line with some of the other predictions that we saw across social media. Mike, Jesse Turvey on Facebook said Sal Stewart leads the team with 30 plus home runs this year. Jeffrey Robinson said Sal Stewart will win Rookie of the Year and become an elite offensive talent. The Reds will also miss their early window to extend him, and his contract situation will be similar to Elly's. Too expensive, but everyone wants to extend him anyway. Caleb Spencer said Sal Stewart with 30 home runs. And then Carson Reuter said Sal Stewart will have the best season out of any Red and win Rookie of the Year. Are you as high on Sal Stewart as all of the comments are?
I'm not sure if I'm 30 home runs high. That's a lot, especially for a guy that self-admittedly is saying, I'm just trying to hit the ball hard, line drives, and we can argue whether or not that should be his approach, but I think he will, because he plays in Great American Ballpark, that he will, definitely show power that's going to get him over 20, maybe 25. But I'm not sure about 30, but Rookie of the Year, I think he's absolutely in the race for that. It's tough because he's got a couple pitchers, I think, that have the sports books have higher than him. But pitchers are so volatile, whether it's injury, which we have seen come up and bite pitchers, or whether it's just like, people start to figure you out, right? The second or third time through the lineup or through the league, people start to, get kind of an idea of what you're doing. So, I'm pretty high on Sal being Rookie of the Year. If I had to play, I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, Sal Stewart would be my pick for Rookie of the Year. Not only because I think he has the best chance, but because the value's there as well.
No sound. Appreciate you, Spooky Ghost. Apologize for that. Let me start over. I was mentioning a stat that I saw on social media today that basically called out that Sal Stewart in his limited time last year, I apologize. He had 0.28 home runs per game in 2025. Now, obviously, that's limited sample size, and certainly pitchers will start to understand him a little bit better, but that's a 43 home run pace over the course of 155 games. Now, I'm assuming he's not going to play a full 162. I'm not even sure that he's going to play 90 games. I have no idea what Tito is going to do. The way they love Spencer Steer really makes it so difficult for me to know and to project out what Sal Stewart does. But there's no doubt that pop was there. And what I liked the most was just the energy that he brought. I think we've talked about it before, but like early on in the season, it just felt like this team was flat. It didn't really feel like they were super energized. They were really into it. And I don't know if that's a Tito thing. I don't know if that's just the way the season went kind of thing, or if Elly was kind of not necessarily at his level that he had been in the past, or what it was. But Sal Stewart instantly brought that energy, and I loved that. And I think having that for an entire season, along with the rest of the guys on the squad, can certainly be an energizer for the team. And we've mentioned this on shows before, but for those of you that didn't see it, Nolan McLain currently leads the way for NL Rookie of the Year odds in 2026 at plus 340 for the Mets. JJ Weatherholt comes in second for the Cardinals at plus 400. And then Sal Stewart's third, plus 700, according to the sports books right now. It's not that far-fetched to think that if he can put up 30 home runs, that he's certainly going to be in the conversation.
Oh, if he hits 30, it's in the bag. Maybe that's a hot take, but it's like, I'm not sure he'll get there to 30 because of a couple of things that you said. But if he hits 30 home runs, I think it's signed, sealed, delivered. Here you go.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Sal Stewart?
I think that he is quickly going to win Tito over. He seems like the kind of guy that, talk to him. We saw the interview that he had where he talked to him about his offseason, and he got to work, got down 25 pounds and things like that. I think that he is going to show Tito that this is the guy made of the right stuff. This is the guy, the hard-nosed baseball player. So I think that by the middle of the season, Sal is going to have not only won Tito over by his bat, but also by his attitude. So I think by the end of the season, we're not going to be worried about making sure he's in the lineup.
Yeah, part of the conversation around Sal Stewart and his 2026 numbers is about how much he'll play and where he'll play. And obviously a big part of that is Spencer Steer. I know Stone Shields had a chance to talk with Freddie Benavidez about that, but Steve Irvine in the chat said, how about Steer hitting 26 home runs and driving in 100? And again, maybe it's just our social media isn't as negative as I am, but a lot of really positive thoughts about Spencer Steer going into 2026. Some bold predictions from our Discord. LD Boyle, healthy Steer reaches his fully optimized form and puts up 3.5 FWAR and a WRC plus above 120. Wally said Spencer Steer is an all-star. And then Jwick 1998 said the Reds win 90 games and Spencer Steer leads the Reds in most offensive categories. Here's my struggle with this, Mike, and I'm interested in your take on it, is that I want Sal Stewart to be playing first base 150 games this year. I really do. Like, I think he's the first baseman of the future. I think he should get as many at-bats as physically possible. And I think that he's going to need to continue to work on his defense. And the only way you do that is to continue to give him reps. And so for me, first base, a lot. So that leaves Spencer Steer with, 20, 25 games at first base. Sure, he can play some second. Sure, he can play some third. He can play some outfield. But for all these people that are really high on Spencer Steer, and I know that it's rightfully so, Spencer Steer had a decent offensive showing last year and has for his career. Where does he get his at-bats in 2026?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to come with DHing. And like, I don't know. When I look at 26 and 100, like Steve Irvine said, my initial thought is like, man, that seems way too high. But I mean, you got to remember, Steer hit 21 home runs last year after having maybe the worst stretch of his career for April and May. So, he was able to come back in and show a little bit of power. I'm not sure where his RBI total landed, but he was able to kind of turn it around at the end. So it's like, I'm with you. I think he maybe gets, doesn't quite get to those numbers because of playing time. But I wonder how much of outfield he ends up being able to do and how much of the mixing around with DH that he ends up doing, whether it's Sal at DH and Steer at first base. We know how Tito really, really prizes defense. So we may see that a little bit more in the year. I know you would like to see, and frankly, me too, would like to see Sal getting as many opportunities as possible playing first base, because as many reps as you can is the way that you're going to get better. But I would imagine that early on in that year, it's going to be Steer playing first and maybe Sal DHing, maybe against every left-handed pitcher. That's how you're going to see it rolled out. Would be my guess. So and another thing that we haven't really talked about, and nobody loves to talk about it, but there's injuries as well. So, there's going to be people missing time for different things. There's a couple people that have some injury history as well. Some people like Ke'Bryan Hayes or Matt McLain, or even, we've seen things crop up for maybe even somebody in the outfield that he would end up playing some left field. So he may not have a fully fleshed out spot as of right now, but I think that throughout the year, he will end up getting about I think he got 509 at bats last year. I think that's probably about where he'll be. I think that's probably where he ends up.
Yeah. I think
92 RBI in 24. I see.
Yeah. The interesting part about the outfield conversation is obviously TJ Friedl is going to play a lot. I think they're going to keep MiLB Marte in there as much as they certainly can. And they went out and got JJ Bleday and Dane Myers for theoretical platoon, at least in left field. And I'm sure Dane will play some center, but then you've also got to consider Will Benson in there. And where does he fit in? A lot of people are high on Hector Rodriguez, and maybe we see him in 2026. Like, I don't want this to turn into this kind of conversation, but the Reds are yet again, at least in my eyes, a roster full of mid. And it just, somebody's got to step up and become that like star player. And certainly we hope that Elly does. We hope that Matt McLain returns to form. I'm really high on Sal Stewart and MiLB Marte. But just a lot of unproven, low floor, high ceiling guys that could either result in a really horrible season or a really good season. And it's just really hard to know where that's going to land. And JJ Bleday and Dane Myers can fizzle out, and Spencer Steer could be your everyday left fielder, or that platoon could work out really well. And Tito utilizes them the way that they're intended to be utilized in terms of the platoon. And then you result in nobody ever else needing to play left field other than those two. But as you mentioned, injuries also pop up, and Dane Myers plays an outfield style that certainly could result in an injury. We've seen TJ Friedl, a broken wrist in 2024 spring training. So there's lots of things that can happen, but again, you've got to ultimately come away with Spencer Steer being the best option. And again, if Hector Rodriguez continues to do what some people think that he can do, then that may or may not be the answer. And one other bold take that I thought was interesting, and it kind of fits into the Sal Stewart, Spencer Steer conversation, is I saw someone on here say, and I'm trying to find it real quick before I don't give the person the credit that they deserve, but I saw somebody else on here say that they think that Sal Stewart plays more games at second base than Matt McLain does. That might have actually been a Twitter response to our last post. I can pull it up real quick and see, but I saw that take on there, and I don't think personally, at least, there's any way in the world. That was Christian Boosie on Twitter. Sal Stewart will play more innings at second base than Matt McLain. I don't think there's any world where that comes true.
Yeah, Sal Stewart is what, the fifth option at second base. There's McLain, there's Callahan, I guess the fourth, right? And then Steer. And then I would say would be um, Sal would be my guess for the best one. So I disagree with that. I think that had something to do with maybe either potential injury for McLain or something like that, or just like he doesn't bounce back and he's just bad again.
It's also making the assumption that they wouldn't prefer to just call up Edwin Arroyo at that point.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, who knows? Who knows what Cam Collier is doing in AAA? So there's lots of things that would go into it, and I think from everything that they've said defensively, they've kind of seen enough. And like I think it's shown from what Tito said. He's like, I want you ready for first and third base. It's like second base is not an option there for what kind of of what Tito is expecting to get out of Sal. So I would agree. I disagree with that. One thing I did want to bring up, you talked about JJ Bleday and Dane Myers. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys is not even on the team by May. They get off to just like a horrible start. They were offered I think they're in order to Dane Myers actually might have an option. But if JJ Bleday comes in, doesn't hit, is average defensively, it's just like they didn't pay him that much money, and I wouldn't even imagine if they just cut bait and say, okay, we're gonna go with a hot hitting Hector Rodriguez in AAA, or we're gonna go with Will Benson is gonna be the left side of this platoon and not you. So I agree that there is they've kind of set this up as their platoon, but I don't think that they would be necessarily married to that very much at all. If he has like a start like a Jamer Candelario or like a Will Myers or something like that, I'm sorry, I just flashed back some terrible memories for Reds fans. But this guy might not even be on the team as well.
Yeah, Fangraphs mentions that shows that Bleday and Dane Myers both have one option left.
Okay.
So
well, they may get it option then. I guess I would imagine they would probably use that option, but it's still. I don't know how married to it that they that platoon they actually will be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's take a quick break and mention our mention 988, one of our sponsors. We're going to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health, whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between. It's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. We spent a lot of time, Mike, talking about first base, and one name kept coming up that I was surprised to see so often, and that is CES, Christian Encarnacion Strand, a name that somehow continued to come up in our predictions, which was very surprising to me. A couple positive and a couple negative, right? Colin Joe said CES turns into the power threat that everyone thought he could be at one point and hits 30 plus home runs. Joe Lanza in our Discord said CES hits 40 bombs. And then, of course, you have C. Jax Cincy 19, who said we won't see CES up again. Which of those boats do you fall closer in line with? CES hitting 30 or 40 home runs, or us not seeing CES at all?
Yeah, I'm going to have to apologize in advance to our fearless leader, Nick Kirby, because I know he is still pretty high on CES as well. But boy, I think I probably fall closer to C-Jack Cincy 19. I do think we'll see him again. The injuries happen. There's things that we saw Reese Hines for a little bit. There'll be potential places for that to pop up. But yeah, I'm not sure that CES has the stuff for in the major leagues, just because he's just not able to control not swinging outside the zone. Like yes, he has prodigious power. Yes, if he barrels it up, it goes forever. He hits the ball really hard when he does. Even plays a pretty good first base. But why would any major league pitcher ever throw him a ball in the strike zone? It's just like, I'm just going to throw you things that fastballs up that I know you're going to swing through, and then a slider off the plate that you're going to swing through as well, or roll over. And until he's able to clean that up, and I just, I'm not sure if that necessarily, I've seen anything on the horizon to make me think that that's possible. I'm not sure that CES is going to be a contributor for this year's Reds team.
Well, if CES isn't going to be the one to provide home runs, Abe Michaels on Instagram said, don't worry, the Reds are going to have 4 25-plus home run hitters in 2026, a healthy Elly, a bounce-back McLain, Sal Stewart, and MiLB Marte. Mike, those 4 players, how many combined home runs from them in 2026? Elly, McLain, Stewart, Marte.
So I guess we already talked about Stewart. I think Stewart probably gets there, and I think Elly also does. Elly almost got there with a hurt quad where he didn't know a home run for like 2 months. So I think Elly and Stewart get there. I don't think McLain does. Even a bounce back McLain is not somebody that I think is hitting 25 home runs. Now I think he's hitting, a bunch of doubles and playing awesome defense and driving in runs, but I don't know if McLain gets there. Now Marte, I think, is an interesting case. I know you have been on the record that he is going to be very good this year. You think he's going to be a breakout star. Fangraphs doesn't agree with you. I think they have him projected at like 0.9 WAR. So we'll see. I like his chances at sticking in right field. I think, making that. I think in that Freddie Benavidez interview, he talked about how difficult it is to just like on the fly change position and go into the outfield. And I think he acquitted himself pretty well. Obviously saved the Reds season, robbing a Brian Reynolds home run. So I'm on the fence there with MiLB. Maybe you can convince me. I think he's going to definitely, be a positive contributor for this Reds team. And we're going to need to, if we're going to get anywhere near the playoffs again. But what about, I don't know if we get to 25 home runs. So tell me I'm wrong, Craig. Convince me I'm wrong. If you think Marte is, going to be our lockdown right fielder that, hits 25, 30 bombs.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a challenge, but I do think that he has the potential to do it, right? Obviously, everybody has the quote unquote potential to do it, but his bat speed is up there. And has always been up there. That's not anything new. In 2023, 74.1 mile an hour average, 73.1 in 2024, and then 2025 was 73.3. He's been super consistent with that. If he can square up on a little bit more higher rate, then certainly he's got the power to do it. I just don't think that there's any question about that. And I just think that he's never been really given an opportunity to play every single day. And this is without a doubt going to be his position to lose in 2026. You go back to early in his career and you look at kind of the success that he's had over the course of his career. And I do think that the max exit velocity is there. I think that the bat speed is there. I think everything's there to be able to get there, but it certainly is going to be an interesting year for MiLB Marte. I'm super high on him, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's going to get a long leash from me. And I think from Terry as well. I want to take a second to make sure that we remind you, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the stream. Appreciate everybody that's tuning in. Now's a great time to like the stream as we go through this. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel as well. I want to go back. We mentioned Elly. Elly is of course always a hot button topic for people. And you pulled out some of the positive ones. So let's stick with the positive ones on Elly. Ransom Strong said Elly goes 30-60. And P. Pollard 5 said a healthy Elly is in the MVP race in early September.
I didn't see as many negative ones. Did you see some? I think most people feel like that they are a little bit higher on Elly. I didn't see as much negative stuff towards Elly, but maybe I just wasn't seeing it all.
It's just always a hot button. I see another one down in your quote unquote negative section about Elly not being a top 10
Oh,
shortstop.
I see.
He's been a consistent hot button topic for years, quote unquote, Error De La Cruz. And so, yeah, give me your hot take on Elly.
I have an interesting take on Elly. I think Elly is actually going to struggle out the gate. And I think I brought this up in the last, I did a little bit more research, but Boston is who our opening day lineup is against. And the first pitcher that they're going to have to face, Garrett Crochet, and the second starter that they have to face, Ranger Suarez, both left-handed pitching. Plus, you got to remember the Red Sox also have Aroldis Chapman, left-handed flamethrower out of the bullpen, who had just coming off his best year. So I think it's a realistic chance that Elly takes his first 8 at-bats as a right-handed batter. Whether it's, they also have another lefty in the bullpen, just like they play the matchup so that he gets in. And I think that he could struggle. Now, the third guy for Boston is Sonny Gray. And I looked this up. Elly is 5 for 11 with 2 doubles, 2 triples, and a home run off of Sonny Gray. So maybe he doesn't struggle for too long. But, if it does potentially bleed over, there's, our next series against Pittsburgh, who, while we can dog them for not having any offense, their pitching is very good. We'll probably face Skeens in that series. We'll probably face Bubba Chandler. So my take here is that I think Elly may struggle at the gate, and there's going to be some discourse like, hey, what's wrong with Elly? Does he still hurt? Is he, should he have taken the offer that was given to him and things like that? But I think Elly rights the ship and is still an all-star, and maybe even has his best year of his career war-wise. So I think that maybe things don't line up for him initially, and maybe I hope he proves me wrong, and there's going to be some chatter in that first week about, hey, what's wrong with Elly? What's going on here? But I think he rights the ship and is the superstar that we have expected.
Okay. I certainly hope that that's the case. 26 errors in 2025, 29 errors in 2024. Here's the thing that is giving me hope. And I recognize that the second half of the year last year, the last 81 games, he had 14 errors. My hope is that playing alongside Ke'Bryan Hayes on one side and Matt McLain on the other gives Elly the relief mentally that he needs to know that he doesn't have to be basically the entire left side of the infield, right? It allows him to kind of focus in on his shortstop, not have to worry about going back and catching all the balls behind third base and doing all the other things that kind of put additional pressure on him. He can just focus on himself, not worry about the guys around him, and hopefully that'll help him cut down on the errors that we've consistently seen him make. I don't really look. I realize that this is not still like a good number, but I'm going to go sub 18 errors for Elly De La Cruz in 2026.
Yeah, I'm still high on him being able to cut down those errors because so many of those are just routine plays. And I think I would rather have the guy that gets to the hard stuff and makes the incredible play, and the young player that does that. And then because I think that there is inherently, you can get better. Barry Larkin, I know that Nick has spread this stat around, but Barry Larkin had 29 errors in 1988. In his I guess second or third real big season in the big leagues, like he led the league in errors. But then what happened? 10 errors in 1989, 17 errors, 15 errors. So he got them under control as the season went on. Even won a couple Gold Gloves, and obviously Gold Gloves are not won on errors, and like that's a flawed stat to go off of. But like I think there's precedent for somebody who slows it down, and like you said, next to Ke'Bryan Hayes, maybe even somebody who's going to help him even get a little bit better, like understanding how to focus to make the easy plays. I think that is something that can really help him cut down his error rate. Do I think he's going to get under 10? No, but I don't think he's definitely not leading the league next year. Maybe that's not a hot take, but I think that he can bring these errors on easy plays under control. And then, that defensive value that he has goes way up because we know he's able to dive for balls, make plays in the hole that literally nobody else in baseball can.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it rolling here. We'll stay On the offensive side of the ball, we'll bring up someone that I know a lot of people in the chat and a lot of people that are maybe listening to this in the podcast are going to be a little split on, but ultimately, William Buchanan Benson, Mike. Brody Bomb 24 says that Will Benson hits 20 home runs. The Pensive in our Discord said Will Benson has a 110 WRC plus at the end of May, but fewer than 75 plate appearances. Hashtag get Tito'd.
Where do we think Benson is going to land this year? That's a great question. It's so hard to think. I know it's easy to say, wow, he's just on Tito's bad side. And maybe that's true. But I feel like he has shown enough. Well, I'm preaching to the choir over here and probably in the chat. I feel like he's shown enough to get an opportunity to play every day, because when he did those times where TJ Friedl was on paternity leave, he played well. He played well in center field, played well defensively. He won us multiple series. I think that I think that Benson has, provided him a chance. I'm sorry, you're probably shaking your head because I said every day. I meant against right-handed pitching in the proper platoon.
With who? You think that they're going to platoon right field and do?
No,
Benson
I don't think
in Marte.
I don't.
I don't.
So. I don't
think they're going to platoon Friedl in Benson.
I think it's Dave Myers and Will Benson that it ends up being, and
JJ Bleday is cut. That's in minors or something.
That would be my best solution to that issue. But yeah, I do think that he will acquit himself to be able to provide serious value to this team against right-handed pitching. And something you brought up with Sal Stewart, something that we've seen with Elly, he also brings the energy. I know that is such a non-quantifiable thing, but there have been multiple teammates that have talked about Will Benson's ability, or the fact that he is working his tail off, the work that he's coming to work every day and brings the energy that rubs off on teammates. And so I think that this is a guy that can definitely benefit this team. I haven't lost belief in him. I think maybe you haven't lost belief in him too. You just don't think that Tito is going to play him correctly, I think is where you stand with this. But I think that he could definitely be somebody who gets some breaks and finds himself as a regular contributor with this Reds team.
All right, MiLB Marte in the outfield, another guy that got some split input. C Strawzer 3 said Marte has 25 plus home runs and hits for 265 plus average. Gary Moore on Facebook said that MiLB Marte hits 300 with 26 home runs and 37 stolen bases. And then Fair from our Discord. If you haven't joined our Discord, make sure you click on the link pinned in the chat and join us on Discord with hundreds of Cincinnati sports fans as well. Fair is not as high on MiLB Marte. Mike says MiLB Marte has a sub 90 WRC plus, and Hector Rodriguez ends up replacing him in right field by the middle of the year. Well, you know where I stand on this one, Mike. I think MiLB Marte plays 150 plus games in right field. I think he gets a super long leash. I think defensively he's hit and miss. I think he's going to make some really great plays. I think he's going to make some plays that make us shake our head a little bit, but I think offensively he's going to be okay. And that's going to be the thing that saves him. I tend to fall in line with Gary and C Strawzer here. I don't know that he's going to hit 300 per se, but I definitely could see MiLB Marte hitting in that 20 to 25 home run range.
Yeah. I think only one qualified hitter in the National League batted over 300 last year. So it's a different type of baseball than when we grew up when it comes to batting averages. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the real big thing that sticks out to me is his long leash. We've talked about, I think it was announced, he's like, there's only 3 people that they said have like guaranteed spots or whatever. And it was Marte, I think Friedl and Elly, right? I think he's going to have a long leash to maybe struggle a little bit. But I also think that, we got to remember this is a young guy that I think can continue to improve. And boy, I would love to see that. And yeah, I tend to have a little bit more faith in him than getting replaced by Hector Rodriguez. I think Hector Rodriguez, by the way, is good. I just don't think, what is he, 20, 21? I just don't think a guy with that, had a below 90 WRC plus in AAA last year is going to be able to make enough of a leap to be able to be a contributor for this Reds team, midway through the year. But maybe I'm wrong. There seems to be a lot of people high on Hector Rodriguez, including, I think, friend of the show, Charlie Goldsmith. But it's I just find it hard to believe that that type of thing is going to be necessarily that's going to come through to this year.
Hector Rodriguez
doubles, I like that.
He'll be 22 on March 11th.
Okay.
But that wasn't the only person that said that. J-Kid21 also said Hector Rodriguez comes up, and he said that Hector Rodriguez will rake. So certainly some people that have belief in Hector Rodriguez. Let's burn through a couple other offensive takes, and then we'll turn our attention over to the mound. Matt McLain, after putting on 12 pounds of muscle, this coming from Scarmstrong 85, after putting on 12 pounds of muscle in the offseason, puts up big dumper numbers. Why is this the second time we've heard big dumper referenced? People are really high on big dumper. And is a serious candidate for NL MVP. Pete Pollard said Matt McLain comes back strong and shuts everyone up. And then as he texted us, Andrew Collinsworth, Edwin Arroyo supplants Matt McLain as the second baseman before the end of the season. I know where Nick stands on this one. Where do you stand on Matt McLain?
Yeah, I'm very high on Matt McLain. I think a lot of what he was doing last year, and you got to remember, he also got a little bit of an injury at the beginning of the year as somebody who has been out of baseball for or not hitting basically for a whole year, and is like, all right, I want to come back. I want to establish myself, and then picks up an injury right before the beginning of right before opening day. To me, that was a guy that was so classically just trying way too hard. Like, he was like, I'm trying, you're gripping the bat a little too hard. And there was just a ton of expectations on him that he unfortunately wasn't able to live up to. I expect him to, come back and, maybe with not as high of expectations. Like, we're not expecting 125 WRC plus. We just want like 100 WRC plus with that really good defense. I think that, I think Matt McLain is the second highest WAR on offense. Is my of the offensive players. I think Elly will be number one and Matt McLain will be number two. And part of that will be because of his good defense. But I think that we are, he's the type of person that I think is going to get us to a much better year this year than he did. He just kind of needed to cleanse the palate at the end of the year for the offseason. He's going to bounce back strong. That's my take.
All right, let's get into the pitching situation, Mike. And this is a lot of people believe that the pitchers are going to be the cornerstone of this team, as they rightfully should. But before we get into the pitching, let's make sure we give a shout out to Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. All right, Mike, let's start with a comment from the chat. Josh Mouse 9217. Chase Burns will be the most impactful pitcher for the Reds. Most Ks and below a 3.0 ERA. He's not the only one high on Chase Burns in 2026. Fair from our Discord says that Chase Burns finishes top 5 in Cy Young voting in 2026. David Ennenbach says 125 innings pitched, 3.1 ERA, 1.15 whip, 110 Ks, 50 walks. Your thoughts on Chase Burns and his role in 2026?
Yeah, I think that I'm with you. I'm very high on Chase Burns as well. I know we kind of have him slotted into a 5th spot in the rotation, but I think Chase Burns is going to be fighting for the 2 or 3 spot. I think he is a talented pitcher. Like, the talent is off the charts. And I think and we saw this with Hunter Greene too. Like, when he first came up, it's like, when you got all the stuff in the world, the idea of learning, to pitch in it, rather than just kind of throw all your stuff and everyone's going to swing and miss at it. It just takes a little bit of time. And I think that we see him blossom this year. I saw somewhere about, is there an innings limit or something like that he's going to be seeing in there? It looks like he threw about 66 innings last year. But then threw 100 in 2024 at Wake Forest. So there's I would imagine that if there is a restriction, it would be, it seems that there may not be too many training wheels on Chase Burns, like we might see actually on Rhett Lauder. Like there may be something on Rhett Lauder that where they, try to pump the brakes, the skip starts or something like that, maybe start him in AAA. But yeah, I think Chase Burns is going to put out some incredible strikeout numbers, and he's only going to get better as the year goes on because he's going to get major league experience, time with Tyler Stevenson, Jose Trevino, time with Derek Johnson, where he's continuing to learn, time with people like Andrew Abbott, Hunter Greene, Nick Lodolo, that are, going to help improve him and his pitching acumen. I think Chase Burns is going to be, it's going to be one of the, I saw some takes of maybe he's even the pitching MVP of the year. And it's just like, he definitely has that ceiling.
The ceiling's undoubtedly there. It's interesting how many people think that he's going to be the Reds ace in 2026. Obviously, Hunter Greene has been that for years now. Had another great year. Last year was a Cy Young vote getter in 2024. Has been the ace of this staff for years now. And quite frankly, a lot of the predictions that we got about Hunter Greene were also just as good.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how high people are on this starting rotation. And ultimately, it is the strength of the team. There's no doubt about it. I think the Reds are going to have a lot of flexibility with how they handle some of these things, right? Like Chase Burns and whether or not he's on an innings limit, Rhett Lauder coming back from injury, Brandon Williamson coming back from injury. Obviously, Andrew Abbott has struggled with season-long stamina over the course of the last several years. What does he look like? It'll be a really interesting year, and it'll give the Reds a lot of flexibility on terms of how they manage those innings and how they go about it. So certainly interested to see how it all shakes out. But Tim Barnes is saying in the chat what I'm thinking, and that's Hunter Greene's the best pitcher. If he's healthy, he's your ace and will continue to be the ace. Mike, is there any world where Hunter Greene is not your opening day starter?
I don't want to say, I don't want to put
if
this
he's healthy. If he's healthy,
I don't want to put that in the. It's like, no, it's Hunter Greene for sure. He made such, like, he had 4.4 WAR in only 107 innings last year. Like, he obviously the injury did derail him, but man, he was so good. One underrated thing that I think he did last year is he just began. He basically halved his walks, which was, he obviously puts those gaudy strikeout numbers out there, but he had a strikeout to walk rate of 5 last year. He jumped it from 2.9, so almost 3 in 2024, where he got 8th in the Cy Young. He jumped that up to 5. He only walked 26 batters last year in 100 innings, 107 innings. So we see him continuing to get better. His control, his pinpoint accuracy is getting even better, even with, throwing 102. So, it's great. There's even talk that he's developing another pitch, like a two-seam fastball. So yeah, Hunter Greene is your guy. And pray to whoever you pray to that he's, going to stay healthy, because that's what you need from a guy like that. And boy, if we could get a full season out of Hunter Greene, I don't know why, Cy Young isn't on the table there.
Yeah, I think it certainly is. And if I remember correctly, he's got like the 5th best odds or something like that for 2026. But again, just to reiterate it, you look at the chat, Shredda 2000 says Williamson will shove if and when given the opportunity. Steve Irvine says Lodolo may be the best pitcher this year. And then we have another one that came up and said Abbott is a close second, Tom Browning 2.0. Like, so many people think that this rotation is going to be so good, which is, again, part of the reason why I'm so frustrated that this offense is going to be so bad, because the pitching's good enough to take you dang near to the World Series, if not all the way to the World Series, but the offense is unproven, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, let's
hoping on leaps by your young players.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into Hunter Greene. Obviously, you mentioned some stats there. The predictions came rolling in on Hunter Greene. D Money is in our Discord. Again, if you haven't already, join our Discord. Link is pinned on the chat right now. Bold prediction: Hunter Greene makes 30 starts. Again, Hunter Greene career high 26 starts in 2024. So 30 starts would certainly be a welcome change. 15-3 record for Hunter Greene with a Cy Young, says Juan Labe. Caleb Spencer says Hunter Greene wins a Cy Young. That's a common thread here. Malhay98 says Hunter Greene reaches 30 starts this coming season and finishes top 3 in Cy Young voting. A lot of people really, really high on Hunter Greene, as they rightfully should be. I'm going to be honest with you, Mike. You said it a couple seconds ago. I knew that he was hurt and missed time in 2025. He only threw 107 innings was a surprise to me, because it felt like he was a topic of conversation so much, and probably because of the reports about, people being frustrated on his timeline coming back and everything else. But man, if we can keep Hunter Greene healthy, it just unbelievably raises the floor of the team to have him on the mound. And we saw him do it in big games. I know everyone's going to want to lean into the Dodgers playoff game, but we saw him down the stretch so many times just absolutely show out. And certainly he's got the stuff to be a Cy Young Award winner, as many people on social said.
Yeah. I mean, made 19 starts last year. People talk about, oh man, he was injured. He made 26 starts in 2024. So it's just like, that's what, 7 starts. Well, obviously that's not great, but it's just like, I think people talk about Hunter Greene like he missed half the year, but I think he still made a decent amount of starts. And I think there was also some chatter about him potentially tipping his pitches in that first game of the playoffs too. I also think that's the type of thing that I think drives Hunter Greene. No one was more upset, I'm sure, of him struggling there than Hunter Greene. And he's just like, hey, if I'm going to be like, me as a baseball player wants to rise to the big moment, I'm going to have to get better. I'm going to have to do things better. So I have no doubt that he's the type of person that's going and not resting on what he had. And it's just like, hey, I need to get back to this spot so I can prove that I have the stones to be able to, go out and, pitch in the postseason.
Yeah. Hollywood Houston also said Hunter Greene with a healthy season is a top 3 pitcher. Along with that, Hunter Houston on Instagram said, if Andrew Abbott can be the same way he was in 2025, look, we're not talking about if he can be, we're talking about big, bold predictions, Hollywood Houston. But he said, Andrew Abbott, top 8 in Cy Young voting. So you've got 2 Cy Young vote receivers there. And Mike, you already said, Chase Burns as well. So our own Stone Shields chimed in and said Andrew Abbott wins 15 games in 2026.
Yeah, I saw that and I immediately went and looked up. I was like, wait, that doesn't feel like a hot take. Didn't he win 15 games last year? And he only won 10 last year. So, with as good a season as Andrew Abbott had, I think, it shows a little bit about how flawed the win stat may be, just because of how good he pitched. But yeah, I agree. I think Abbott is somebody who, can only, somebody mentioned him as Tom Browning 2.0. I've even heard comps from MLB Network, people who love to throw around completely, comps that are going to make everybody lose their mind. But I heard Tom Glavine as well. This like lefty that understands how to pitch is going to come in and maybe doesn't have the most electrifying stuff, but just like nobody can really square up very well. And boy, I really do think that we can get it. Like, even if we like what Abbott, maybe it's too much to ask for him to get better than last year, but even if he just does what he did last year, like that's huge for what, 3, 4, number 4 starter, that maybe he is the number 2 coming in, but yeah, it's great. And I know we needed to use him down the stretch in order to try to get into the playoffs, but I would have liked Abbott somewhere in the playoffs there against the Dodgers, just because it's like this guy's having an incredible year, and would have liked to be able to use one of our main bullets there against the Dodgers.
Yeah. Some bold predictions from the farm as well as it pertains to pitching. And I'm interested in one of these in particular to talk to you about, Mike, because I have a bold prediction that's kind of parallel with this, but different. Um, Again, Boyle in our Discord said Yoel Valdez pitches at least 20 innings for this team and has an ERA under 4.0. But then J Kid 21 on Instagram, this is the one that I'm interested in getting into a little bit more. Luis May is the closer by the end of the season. Now, my hot take, Mike, is that Tony Santillan is the closer by the end of the season. So which boat do you fall in? I don't know if Luis May at least is even projected to make the opening day roster. That doesn't mean that he can't be a closer by the end of the season, but what about this closer role and where do you see that going over the course of the season? Obviously, we saw Tito in game 1 last year turn to our friend Ian Jabot, and we saw how that went out. And then Emilio Pagan steps up and takes over that role. They bring Emilio Pagan back on a basically 2-year, $20 million deal. So, I mean, certainly feels as if they're bringing him back to be your closer, but will he be your closer come September?
Yeah, I'm not sure your take is that hot of a take.
No, I don't think
just
so
because
either.
From a guy who got 7 saves last year and like pitched very well, and they kind of settled into a rhythm. It wouldn't surprise me if even just a little bit of a step back from Pagan, or just an injury from Pagan, or just a continuing lights out performance of from Santillan gets him the quote unquote closer role. But it just feels like it's going to be those two kind of by committee. That the take on May, though, that's the type of hot take that I really like. It's just like somebody with some high upside that just like, yeah, let's just take it to its extreme. Because what I like, I know we've discussed our struggles with what they've done offensively but this offseason. But what I do really like what they've done is in this bullpen, they've basically created a spot, it seems, for one of I don't want to say his name wrong. Sorry. Luis May, Zach Maxwell, and Connor Phillips. I think one of those three all three electric stuff, all three, have the potential upside to be late ending, maybe even closer material. And they basically say, which one of you guys can come in and throw strikes? We saw Luis May wild. So is Zach Maxwell. Yeah, they throw really fast, but they can't hit the strike zone. If one of those three figure it out, I think that is the potential for you to then get that spot, earn Tito's trust, and then maybe even earn more and more leverage situations. So I appreciate that, because it looked like going into the season, it was like, we're going to have to rely on all three of those guys figuring it out in the majors. And now we can just say, hey, whichever one of you guys figures it out, you're the one here, and you're the one, contributing to this big league team.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see Connor Phillips's usage this year. It seemed like a guy that Terry certainly seemed to grow in confidence in as the season went on, and rightfully so. I think he performed exceptionally well when given the chance. Pitched in 21 games last year. Sorry, I had to try and figure that out. I know. Trust me, my math is not exactly the way that it used to be, at least. But one hold, no saves, no opportunities for saves. Do you think we see Connor Phillips get opportunities this year? Maybe not to be the closer per se, but do we think he gets save opportunities in 2026?
I think maybe there's just too many people. Like if I think of who would get a save opportunity before him in this bullpen, like I think obviously Santillan, Pagan. I think Ashcraft probably gets a something before him. I think Ferguson and Pierce Johnson, maybe even also, depending on what the matchups look like for lefties. So I don't know. Maybe by the end he gets one. But I think that Tito is going to have him settle into a specific role that I think is maybe not the most trust, but somebody that he can bring in maybe a Scott Barlow type situation. And I think that's where he's going to thrive. So I don't know. It just feels like, unless there's injuries, obviously, I think he probably is kind of just he's gonna sit in that role and stay there. So that's my thought on that one.
All right. Maybe that'll be my hot take of the night then. I'm going to say Connor Phillips over 4.5 save opportunities.
Wow. Okay.
4.5 feels reasonable.
And it's just because you think he's going to be too good, or you think there's going to be a step back from other people?
I think he found his role. I think that's a role for him. Back end of the bullpen kind of guy, feels like he really embraced it in 2026. There's obviously always the injury conversation, but just as the season goes on, Emilio Pagan is 35, or he's going to be 35 this year. The idea of him being able to pitch every single night. Tony Santillan felt like he came out of nowhere a little bit. He doesn't have any options left. Like, almost feels like maybe he pitches well in the first half and he becomes a trade piece at the deadline. And that opens up the opportunity for Connor Phillips, especially in the second half, to get more opportunities late in games. And so I think that he works his way into that kind of role. His confidence is better and his command is better. And I think that's where I'm going to lean. So maybe that's my hot take of the night. Connor Phillips over 4.5 save
really going
opportunities.
Out on a limb on that one.
Yeah, I know. All right. Other pitching. I think that was the last one for the pitching that I wanted to get to. Any other bold takes on the pitching side for you, Mike?
No, just hope they're as good as they were last year, if not better.
Yeah, let's hope. All right. Let's get into this one. I think, first of all, it is a super bold take because it's got to happen in the next 2 weeks. But Ryan Carroll on Facebook said they trade Tyler Stevenson to the Rays for a couple of mid to low level prospects. They will sign Eugenio Suarez to 2-year, $42 million deal with a mutual option for 2028. He'll lead the team with 45 home runs, 115 RBIs, and also 205 strikeouts. Tyler Stevenson, if he gets dealt, is not going to be for a couple mid to low level prospects.
Who plays catcher for you then? It's like
Ben Rortvedt.
Okay, yeah. Well, man, you thought people were. I mean, Eugenio Suarez is now worth the Rortvedt Trevino platoon that you're going to have to deal with.
No, I listen, I'm with you. I thought that there was a chance earlier in the year where maybe Tyler Stevenson was traded since they hadn't signed him to an extension. I thought that maybe he could be used to bring in something that would make sense for the Reds, and that they could go out and sign a catcher in free agency that might make sense. Maybe a Jonah Heim. I think Jonah Heim's actually still on the market, but no, I don't think that that's the answer personally. And the Geno Suarez thing, look, let's have a 2-second conversation about that. I don't know, man. First of all, I love Geno. I'd love to have him back. Can he repeat what he did in 2025? Maybe.
No, my hot take is Suarez is going to have it down, or is in decline. As much as I hate to see it from a guy that I loved watching and was very, very sad when they traded him away. But I think that, mid-year, wherever Suarez signs, if he does, Reds fans are going to look at that and be happy that Nick Kroll did not give out that contract. That's my take on Suarez. As much as I love him and I would love to see him hitting bombs again in Great American Ballpark, I think he's past his peak. That's my thought.
All right, how about this one from Dylan Rushman in the chat? 2 of Singer, Stevenson, Steer, and Abbott will not be on this roster by August 4th. Of course, the MLB announced that the trade deadline this year will be August 3rd at 6 p.m. Due to the weekends and everything else. So it's Monday, August 3rd. Your thoughts on Singer, Stevenson, Steer, or Abbott being dealt at the deadline by the Reds this year?
That's interesting. I think Abbott, likelihood is very, very low. If they're out of it, Abbott's not a guy I don't think they're getting rid of. And if they're in it, they're not, he's I don't know. I feel like he's too valuable. The two that I see are Singer, for the reasons that you brought up earlier. I mean, reasons that we thought he might get traded this offseason, right? You have Burns, Louder, Williamson, Aguilar all waiting in the wings. And if you get enough, any two of those guys show you enough, maybe Singer, gives you something in the beginning of the year and then is, they trade for offense in the second year. Stevenson is an interesting one to me because he is in the final year of his contract, right? We did talk about who's going to catch if that's the case, because Duno's not ready, and it's, we have a significant downgrade on offense if you trade him. But if the Reds fall out of it, there's a thought maybe you could get something for Stevenson, somebody buying a rental who needs a catcher, and maybe you could get something out of that. So I wouldn't put that at non-zero just because, the Reds could fall out of it. And Steer does to me seem expendable. And I don't mean that in I guess it just feels like
it's the right word.
We talked about how his fit is just, it doesn't really fit with what they feel like they're doing. You pencil Brian Hayes at third base. You're due to the futures. Sal Stewart is at first base. In left field, we've already got, people out there that, for a platoon, plus he's not that great defensively. I think he is expendable. And if he is able to put something up, good offensively, he could be somebody who could contribute to a spot that could give him a full-time position somewhere. So I know I didn't answer your question, but I would say based on Nick Krall's propensity to try to hold on to people too long, no, they're probably all still on the Reds by the end of the trade deadline. But Singer and Steer would be my options as who may get moved.
I think that's probably the right take. I said earlier in the show, I think Singer or Lodola will get dealt at the deadline. I still think that that's probably the right answer. Spencer Steer, I think expendable is the right word, especially as the season goes on. Certainly seems as if he's quote unquote expendable. But I don't know that the Reds will actually do anything about that because that's just not really their MO to do that. And Spencer Steer does have three options. I mean, for what that's worth.
They didn't send him down last year.
No, I don't know that they would actually do anything about it.
Right.
But, all right, let's get into the big picture, Mike. Let's talk record. And again, as always, both some positives and some negatives. We'll take our first record projection and we'll go all the way back to let's see if I can find it again. September of 2025. Nicholas Kirby. Reds win 90 games next year. He sent that in our group chat and stands by it now. So Reds win 90 games according to Nick Kirby. Chamberman on IG also thinks that the Reds are winning 90 games this year. And then on the flip side, Mike, Eric Neese. They will do absolutely nothing about their offense. They'll be around 500, do some bargain shopping at the deadline, and finish in the high 70s or low 80s in wins. Miss the playoffs, but still refuse to spend money. And then Sam George on X said, bold take in the direction that I don't think many people are going to like. Reds just have not done enough on the offensive side for me to see anything but this team having a severe regression this season. Reds finish bottom of the NL Central and sell major pieces in August.
Oy, man.
Mike Hart, I put you on the spot. How many games do the Cincinnati Reds win in 2026?
I think the Reds win the exact same number of games as last year and miss the playoffs by 3 games. I think that they are going to, there's some things going up and down with what they're doing, but I think that the National League has just gotten a lot better. The Dodgers, the Mets, the Cubs, the Braves have all brought in big free agents. Now, you never know with injuries, right? And sometimes you win the offseason, doesn't always work out. Mets signed a bunch of people last year and then had an epic collapse. The Phillies maintained. The Giants even made some moves. The only teams that are up there that you could say maybe took a step back are the Padres, right? They lost pitching, Dylan Cease and people like that. But they still have Tatis, Machado, Jackson Merrill, Mason Miller, people like that. And then the Brewers, you'd say they took a step back, but I don't think anyone in their right mind here is predicting that the Brewers are, just because they did that they're not still going to, finish it with a playoff spot. So it's just like, it's hard to see math-wise where they even fit in. 90 games, I don't want to say 90 games doesn't even make it into the playoffs, but I would imagine, like, what did we go? We went 83 wins last year. I think that's exactly where we land, and it's not going to be enough. Now, it's going to help that the Cards are, like, legitimately tanking, and that's a team that we're going to have to play, and we're going to have to win a bunch of games against. And then hopefully we'll be able to also make some hay against the Pirates. But, boy, even if they improve on their extra inning luck, even if they get incredible pitching again last year, it's hard to see where they land offensively without like three people taking a huge leap that they really are able to improve. And I think that they land in the exact same spot, and that leaves them out of the playoffs.
Okay. I think the Reds finished 4th in the NL Central. I think the Pirates actually finish above them. I'm going to say Zips has them at 78.
The Pirates?
No, it has the Reds at 78.
Oh, really?
They actually have the Pirates at 74, and then the Cardinals at 77. I think that's wrong. That's updated as of Thursday, actually. They have the Reds at an 18.5% chance at making the playoffs, 0.6% at winning the World Series, 6.9% of winning the division, 11.6% for a wild card. So, look, I tend to lean closer to Zips. I'm going to say pitching does enough for them to win 79 games.
You don't even think they get to 500?
I don't think they get to 500. I think that last month of the season is so brutal, Mike.
That is true.
So brutal.
It's so bad. We should just
they have to get out to such a hot start and be so good through the like 3/4 mark to even have a chance, man. Like, and that's my struggle, is that you're relying on young guys to take steps forward, and to expect them to come out smoking hot at the beginning of the year or to find their stride early enough. I think they will. I think they'll keep us interested long enough. I really do. I think that they're going to do well enough early in the season, especially the first 3/4 of the way. I just think that last month is going to be so brutal that they find their way to go all the way from like a game out of the wild card all the way down to like well out of it.
Listen to the opponents of September: Padres, Brewers, Dodgers, Cubs, Braves, Blue Jays to end the season. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games against teams that were in the World Series last year. There's 6 games against the Brewers, and we all know how that goes with the Reds. The Padres, who are also in the playoffs, and then the Braves, who, are probably looking to, are probably going to be in the mix this year after a year from hell last year. That is so brutal. You're right. They're going to need five games, I think, of a lead if they're going to even want to navigate that. It feels like, just because of just how much of a gauntlet that is.
They play 24 games in September, Mike. You just listed off the opponents. If I set the over under at 8.5 wins, where do you fall?
God, over that. Come on. That hurts my soul to think, but yeah, it's like
that is literally over. That means that they're 3 games under 500 against that brutal schedule.
Dang, you're right.
You don't think it's realistic for them to go 8-16 during that stretch?
Oh, no, you're right. That's very realistic. Man, that's tough. It's gonna be a slog, and I guess 8-16 is a very realistic thing that they could do in that stretch. I guess the best we can hope for is the Dodgers are no longer trying. The Brewers, do take a step back, or maybe we've gotten the monkey off our back. And, I think we just kind of gotta hope that we, get there. But yeah, I guess you're right. That's just so brutal to think about. And I don't know how that ends up playing out, but yeah, 8-16 is actually pretty realistic.
That's my struggle, right? So let's imagine you go into that last month and you're like 4 or 5 games over 500, right? You go 8-16, all of a sudden you're 4 games under 500, and now you're winning 77 games.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see if they can make hay with the easier part of the schedule, but I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it just feels like an opportunity to get so down that like you're going to be so high coming into September, because your schedule in August lines up pretty well, if we're being honest. Like you start with the Pirates, and then you get the Athletics, which again, the A's are better, but I don't know if they're great. Then you get the Nationals, then you get the White Sox, who are like sneaky, like big improved this year. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Miami played really well down the stretch last year. St. Louis, Arizona, San Francisco, and then the Cubs before you get into that brutal stretch of September. Like, I just think that by the time you get to that like Arizona West Coast road trip where you go, you finish a 4-game set. Get this. You finish a 4-game set with St. Louis at home on Thursday, and then you're playing in Arizona on Friday, the 21st, for a 3-game set, and then another 3-game set against San Francisco before getting a 3-game set at Chicago for the Cubs. Like, the brutal stretch is brutal, and it doesn't slow down at the end of the year. I wish I could be higher on them. I really do. And I think that at the beginning of the year, it's going to be putting me in a position to like eat my words a little bit, because I do think they're going to be good enough to stay in the race. I do. And the pitching is going to be exactly what everybody thinks the pitching is going to be. I'm super excited about that. I just don't know if they can keep it going all year long, that second half of August into September, and be able to stay in the race. And that's my struggle, Mike.
Yeah. But one thing you are forgetting, Craig, is that the Reds thrive against good teams. They suck against bad teams. Remember that? We had the easy schedule coming up, and then we got swept by the A's last year. So, that's what's going to have you eat the words. When they 4-game sweep the Dodgers in September, then, Craig, we'll be asking you now, hey, what's going on here? What, look at this playoff team. So we'll see. In all seriousness, it's hard to argue with what you're saying. But,
I hate it though, man. I really do.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And
Reds were 43-40 against teams that were 500 or better in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Maybe not as amazing as I think better than what they were against people under 500, but still, it's, I think, maybe we can hope on a Tito miracle as well. Francona has historically had teams that have continued to improve throughout the year. And maybe he could pull some magic out in his final season as well. But I don't necessarily feel that with my whole heart. I just, it's going to be a tough season. If we get there and we just really fall on our face, it's going to be tough.
Yep. All right. Final thoughts, Mike.
I like that Ke'Bryan Hayes take. We can't go for 2 hours, but I think that it's just a little bit of offense with Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to be a very, very productive player for the Reds because of just how good his defense is.
All right. It's been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, if you haven't already, please like the stream. It certainly does help us. And make sure you subscribe to the channels. Follow us all over social media at Seabox Sports. We certainly appreciate your support, and we look forward to doing more and more shows for you as the season gets ready. Spring training right around the corner, less than 2 weeks away. We'll make sure we have you covered all spring training long. And of course, we have you covered after every single Reds game all season long, going live in the 9th inning to break it all down for you. Make sure you check out the rest of our crews as well. Stone Shields and Reed Mouse have you covered Monday through Friday, 10 a through 12 p on the Stone Shield Show and Off the Bench. Chatterbox Reds, of course, has you covered. Chatterbox Bengals will have you covered with draft and free agency coming up soon. And Chatterbox Bearcats and the FC Cincinnati Flying Lion podcast all have you covered as well. We look forward to our next time seeing you. For Mike Hart, I'm Craig Sandlin. This has been Chatterbox Reds. We appreciate you all sincerely. Until next time, everybody, go Reds.